Imagine spending 3 years putting out video content to get little to no results, to making one simple change, and now generating clients and closed deals every single month from your free content. Well, today I have the pleasure of bringing on Brandon Vincent, who's going to unpack the things that he did along his YouTube journey in order to catapult his success and start to generate consistent deals. Now, Brandon actually talks about a couple things I've never heard anybody really talk about related to YouTube for realtors. And this is going to be unbelievably valuable, especially the key thing that he did in order to have more fun with his content, be more authentic, be more genuine, and stop putting on some persona when it came to getting in front of the camera. So 2 quick things before I bring on Brandon. Number 1, I'll link all of his content below so that you can check out his YouTube videos and use it as a reference for yourself. And number 2, I'll link his calendar below in case you'd like to chat one-on-one with him about getting his help to scale your YouTube channel and your production. So this is going to be one where we're going to break down the content process, coming up with ideas, recording, editing, everything that you need to know so that by the end of this, you can take massive action. So without further ado, let's bring on Brandon. All right, Brandon, so super excited to have you here, man. You know, you've had a pretty incredible journey that I know is going to relate to a ton of agents, especially when it comes to YouTube, mindset, finding a genuine, authentic personal brand, which many people struggle with. So before diving into it, maybe just give people a quick rundown as to who you are, where you're from, and what kind of got you to this point.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, growing up on the east coast of Canada, here in New Brunswick, born and raised in St. John, small town, same spot that you're from. You know, it's a slower lifestyle here. So, growing up, I was working in the trades. I started working at 14 years old at a local produce store called On the Vine, stacking potatoes and tomatoes. And I walked in there at 14 years old. I probably weighed about 100 pounds. And the only thing they asked me, they're like, can you lift a 50-pound bag of potatoes? And I threw that around my neck like a scarf because I was so eager to get a job. I wanted to buy an Xbox. And I was just young and hungry. And I've literally always kind of been somebody that likes to stay busy, likes to work. So from 14 years old, got that job. So I was in high school at the time. 16 years old, ended up joining the military as well. So there was one point I was in high school. I was doing a job after high school, and then on the weekends doing the military training too. So just always been busy, and I think a lot of that's kind of shaped who I've become. And there's a lot of kind of good lessons to have learned in there that have definitely helped me through my real estate career. So got into real estate 6 years ago. Always had a passion for business, for helping people. One thing that I always did, so I used to always get in trouble every job I had for talking too much. And now I finally found something where I get paid for it. So that was always something that I found pretty ironic, because every spot I ever worked at, it was always, Brandon, would you shut up? Brandon, would you shut up? Because just talking so much. And I always love keeping morale high and just like high spirits, right? And in the trades, they just want you to get the work done. And I love that too, because I'm down to get the work done. I'm down for all that. In the military, I was a communications operator, so working on the radios. So always been in the communication, talking. And I actually find working in communications too very important with real estate, because it's like being able to transfer the important information to one party to the other. And that's a key thing with real estate. And anyway, end up starting real estate 6 years ago, and haven't looked back since. And coming into EXP and the Wolfpack has been an absolute game changer, because of the value that you guys deliver and the tools and resources and the minds that we get around. So just kind of super excited to unpack all of that. And it's been a heck of a ride ever since I started here with EXP, ever since I started following your channel 3 years ago, and caught wind of you and just how you lead with value. And I mean, it's contagious, and there's so much to it. So super excited to kind of dive into it.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped as well because it's been incredible to start to see, your journey unfold, and how much growth that I've seen in you over the last couple of years. And it's really funny talking to people back from where I'm from, because I remember on the Vine, I remember all these things, and I had the same kind of thing, early job of 14, gas station type deal, and then was able to make it work in a different avenue. So there's not a lot of people, and I think this is going to be a really important video for people that are in this scenario. I see a lot of people that come and they're like, okay, I love the idea of YouTube. There's like nobody in my market doing it. And you kind of were in this similar position, is that, back in the East Coast and the Maritimes, there's not a whole lot of people leveraging YouTube across any of the provinces. And you decided to capitalize on that. So first, let's kind of unpack why you decided to lean into YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was something that I always thought of in a way. So going back a little bit to my past as well, when I was in like middle school, even a little bit before that, I got into acting. So that's something that I also find as I think that's a tool that I've had in my back pocket that's really helped me get myself in front of the camera. I used to be in plays, man. I was in Peter Pan. I was in Treasure Island. I did all this stuff at the Imperial Theater. And one really cool thing with acting that we did all the time was improv. So just being able to kind of jump on into a situation and be comfortable communicating and kind of like creating something. And I've always enjoyed creation. Like, I love art, as you can see, all the art behind me. Like, I really love that avenue. So I find there's a artistic side to YouTube where it's like you're creating something, and that was really enjoyable to me. And then finding a way to give value, but in an entertaining way. So one thing, like you said, there's not many people doing YouTube in the Maritimes. And so when I looked up as a new agent myself, I was like, oh, I want to find some people around here that I can kind of like be inspired by or find some like creative kind of juices from. And I couldn't find anybody on YouTube. So I was like, there's really not all that many people doing it right now. So then going back to you finding your channel and then you talking about the value of YouTube. And I didn't realize at first really the major opportunity, because you're communicating at scale. That's the beautiful thing with YouTube, is you're communicating at scale, and you're also building trust at scale with people if you do it right. If you do it right, then you're able to get people. Like, I've had people call me and they're like, Brandon, I want you to sell my multi-unit. I live in BC. I've been watching your YouTube channel and I want you to sell it. I don't really have much time right now, but like, I trust you. Do whatever you need to do. This property management company is dealing with it. Call them, send me the documents. Let's do it. Like a 5-minute conversation. Person already knew me. And I was like, this is mind blowing. This is mind blowing, the opportunity that you have. Like, because normally you got to sit down, you're getting interviewed, you're getting interviewed, and there's probably 4 or 5 other agents that are getting interviewed for the same spot as well. But like, it just creates so much opportunity. And like I said, when you do it right, so it's about being yourself too. And that's something I want to get into a little bit either like later on, but that's a big part of doing YouTube right, is finding a way to communicate your message yourself, where you're doing it authentically, because there's a big thing where people get in front of the camera and they almost turn cartoonish. And I did that at first too. Like, hey everybody, how's it going? Like, la 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 la, and it's just like too much. It's too much, and it's not how you would actually communicate with people in real life. So finding the way to find your flow and almost get relaxed. And it's just like anything, the more you do it, the better you get.
I love it. And let's kind of dive into that then, because it's such an important topic about being able to find your voice, being able to do it in a very genuine way, because just like you, and we can dive into this, but I fell victim to the same thing. My videos in my first 3 years, when I go look back at them, I was trying to put on this almost like online persona of, I always heard the quote that, on camera, you are perceived as 4 times less energetic than you are in person. So hearing that stat, I was like, well, then I got to be 4 times more energetic so that I'm as energetic as I am in person. And you go back and look at my old videos, and that's just not me. Whereas you look at my videos now for the last 2 years, it very much is. I wonder why the last 2 years is where all my growth has been, right? There's no secret to that. And so you've got a very relatable journey as well when it comes to being authentic and genuine, because you've been at YouTube for a minute. It's not like you just got started this year and suddenly you're crushing it. You're crushing it this year and you've already closed multiple deals. We're only a few months into the year. But for the last couple of years, you only did, one or two deals, but you were active on YouTube. So what was that process like, and how did you start to find your groove?
Absolutely. So just like anything, YouTube is a process. So it's going to take time for most people. And like you say, don't expect instant results from YouTube, because it takes time to grow your audience, to find your groove in it. And it does take time. So what I did differently this year, and what I really started to figure out, is just how to be myself. And one big realization that I had was, when I'm talking to people out and about in the streets, like just randomly interacting with the public, the way that I speak and the way that we have conversations, like 97% of them go phenomenal. So it's like, if I can find a way to turn that on with my content, so if I can be the same version of myself as I am normally, and realize that you don't need to put on that show. And yes, you need to bring a good energy, for sure. You got to bring a good energy. Like, you have to find a way. So there is a good balance with it. Luckily, I'm a pretty energetic person. You're a very energetic person. Like the first time I was on a Zoom call with you, I was like, holy smokes, man, this guy's staring lasers through me. And then even meeting you in person, like people have a vibration, people have an energy, right? So it's like, if we can find a way to transmit that over camera and to the audience that we're trying to talk to. And so what really did it for me this year, there was two things I found that really helped me start. And I want to try to give as much value as possible on this, man, because you give so much value in your channel. It's an honor to be on the channel. So like, I really want to try to unpack as much as I can. And I've been thinking about this call for a long time. So like, I want to give as much value here. So like, what really did it for me was some podcasts. So long form, I find when you start to do long form, you can really find a way to be comfortable on camera, because it's like, you almost forget that the camera is rolling at a certain point. Like you turn that cartoon version of yourself off. Like, if you're doing a long form podcast with somebody for 30 minutes to an hour, like, you can't maintain that character that you're being. And it's just the best way I find to build trust with people is to show them who you are over a long term. That was one reason why I started to watch long form podcasts. It's one reason I loved like Joe Rogan's podcasts, when you'd see like celebrities on there and you're like, oh, I've only ever seen that person in 30-second clips. What are they like for 30 minutes straight? Are they really that same person? And then when you realize like, oh, they are, or oh, they aren't, then that's like really eye-opening, and it's really, really cool. So the podcast, also the reason for podcast too, is because you can do a podcast with somebody, and it doesn't all have to be about real estate, in my opinion. I find like podcasts are really cool because you can end up building a relationship with people, and real estate is a relationship business. It's a people business. So if we can just build relationships about things that we're interested in, and that's what I really love about the podcast. It's like, I'll talk to anybody about really anything, because it's like, I just want to talk about things that I'm fairly interested in. And if it's somebody I'd talk to in real life, and if they're willing to turn the camera on and roll with it, then I'm completely willing to go with it too. So I find some magic can come from that, because you never know what audience you could reach from that and what new person you'll find. And another really cool thing is the fact that people bring their best version of themselves on when you're doing a podcast. People like, they want to pour into it. They want to give you the best version, the things that they know. So then you start to like, now you're there in this high energy, high converting conversation. And it is so cool. And then also I also hired an editor this year. So that's been a big game changer, because I was editing my own videos before. And you kind of get in your own head when you're doing that too, because you're the creator and then you're the editor and you're doing all of it. And that takes a lot of time. But luckily, I learned how to do it through the Social Agent Academy and your beautiful training that just goes straight into it and teaches you how to do all that stuff. And the only reason I was able to get to a point where I can pay for an editor is because I learned how to do it properly and got some momentum with it, to where I was like, okay, I've now made a few deals off YouTube. It's now time to reinvest that money back into the business and now give myself some more time, like Dan Martell's book there, Buy Back Your Time. So instead of me spending 4 hours editing a video each time I do one, then that freed up more time for me to make more content. So there's a lot of factors that kind of helped me out this year, but it's been a worthwhile journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, it's actually really cool that you brought up Dan Martell's book, and I want to kind of harp on this for a second before we go into your content process. Such a life-changing book. So I put out a video about the 10 most unexpected books agents should read in 2024, and everybody else talking about books for realtors is like the $1 Million Agent and all this nonsense of like real estate specific stuff. But the truth is, you could learn basically everything for free on YouTube. Where a lot of agents get tripped up is scaling and finding leverage, and they get caught up in this trap of, because I know I can do it, I'm just going to do it. And, the concept that I really love, and I've built out my team this year and hired executive assistants and, started to scale a lot more. And the one quote that really hit hard from that book that I hope echoes with a lot of, people listening right now is 80%, done is 100% perfect. And so where a lot of people go wrong is they'll be like, okay, they'll outsource it to Fiverr or a different company or whatever, and it's like 80% as good as they would have done it. And they're looking for 100%. But the concept of that book of 80% done is 100% perfect is, if you can then take that time that you would have spent editing yourself and stay in your zone of genius to go get more clients, that 80% is more than worth its weight in gold. And I think a lot of people are looking for others that can do it 100% of the way they would have done it, right? And so now as I'm building up my team, building up my content, like I look at my team and I'm like, hey, if you get it 80% of the way there, could I have done it better? Sure. But do I care? No, because I can stay in my lane. So I love that you brought that up. It's such a cool concept. I'll link the book in the description as well.
It's a very good book. And then Dan Martell, he's from New Brunswick too, eh?
I know.
That's crazy.
It's nuts.
I seen him live. I seen him live at a conference in Toronto. It was the Archangel Summit back in like 2017. It was my first time ever hearing from him, and his story, man, brought tears to my eyes. Talking about like how all he needed was somebody to believe in him, and now he had that jail guard that said like, "Dan, I believe in you." Like that was powerful stuff.
Such a good book, man. And again, some hometown love between you, me, and Dan. So we'll have to get him on the channel at some point. But
that'd be so cool.
Yeah, man. So, okay, let's kind of now fast forward to what's happening now. So what type of content are you putting out? What type of content are you working? Do you find is working in terms of getting you clients? And how did you start to kind of build out that creation process to stay consistent?
Yeah, so I started to make content that I would have wanted to watch myself. So I was like, how would I want to digest real estate information? There's a lot of YouTube channels out there with real estate information, and I find it's very dry, and like I don't know if it's maybe the fact like I'm a high energy guy, like I want like some entertainment along with it. I love being entertained at the same time as I'm being taught. That doesn't mean I need to be, but if I have a preference, which everybody on YouTube has a preference of what they watch, I would rather be entertained. So from the get-go, I always knew that there was something to mixing the entertainment with the giving information and education. So I knew that that'd be valuable. So like, even from like, you could go back some of my first videos. I'm like, my goal on this channel is to give you relevant real estate information in an entertaining way. If you like the sound of that, hit the like, subscribe button, But so it was relevant real estate information in an entertaining way. That was my thing. And at first it was very over the top, and I was taking it in all kinds of different directions. But now it's just kind of doing the market updates. The market updates are a big one. People really, really love those. Those are some of the best ones. But also the videos that you talk about too on the, because you pretty well give a list of like the proven SEO search engine optimized videos to do. And it's like so my top watched video right now is the first video I ever filmed on YouTube. And Mike, get this, everybody get this. I filmed it on my phone and I edited it with my phone. I literally didn't even put it on a computer. I used like it was like an Adobe software, and my phone crashed about 15 times while I was editing it because it was like so much for it to process. But that video, and it was just me sitting in front of a painting in my old apartment when I was like 25 years old, and I was sitting there, and it's got like 9,000 views, and it was 5 reasons you'll love St. John. It was just my 5 reasons why I love St. John. And I was talking about like the beautiful nature and being by the ocean. And that to this day is my top watched video. It's the first video I ever put out. So stuff like that. Also, another big one are the property tours. Doing the property tours, paying for a videographer, paying to do a proper property tour goes a long, long way. But even if, let's say you're in a position where you can't afford to get the couple $1,000 videographer for the property tour, well, you can easily, because some of my property tours are just me holding a gimbal and filming myself. And like those ones there, I've actually gotten all kinds of clients who call me and are like, I want to see that property. And they literally say to me at the property, they're like, that video you did, you're onto something. That's really good. Like, thank you so much for doing the video that way. I feel like I was there with you. Like people were showing up and I've never met them. And again, they feel like they know me. And that is so invaluable in this business because it's building relationships at scale. And that's the power of YouTube. So another thing too, I love the analytics. I love the analytics. I am literally, you can ask my girlfriend, I am addicted to the analytics. Every morning I wake up, I'm loading the YouTube analytics, the YouTube studio to figure out what's my watch time, how's the views, how'd the last video I post do, could I change the thumbnail, should I change the title? I probably spent too much time on it. Like I probably spent too much time on that, but I love it because it's like, to me, if you're going to invest so much time into doing the videos, then why not spend the time to figure out what is working and what's working properly and what's not working? And it's like, so to get back to the analytics, my channel just hit 90,000 views this morning, because I wanted to say that in this podcast. I was like, I'm going to post like one little short so I can get to that 90,000. So it just hit 90,000. I just hit over 900 subscribers, which isn't crazy to some people, but like for a little town, man, that's pretty cool here. There's really not many people that have that many subscribers, like even in New Brunswick in general, for real estate agents or just any content creators at all. So it's like, it's just slowly growing. And my channel also just hit 300 watch hours for the last 28 days, which is over 10 hours of prospecting per day. And that's really cool. Where it gets even cooler is when it's like 2,800 hours, and now you're prospecting way more than anybody could do with a team. And that's where it's really cool. And I see that, and I see the potential and the possibility for that. And it's like, I want to get my channel to a point where nobody's even able to compete with the amount of prospecting I'm doing or the amount of time that people are watching my videos. It's like you couldn't go around and door knock. You couldn't hire 10 people and have them go around and talk to people about business. Like, I want to get to that point where it's so valuable. And then also to bring other agents in, like even in New Brunswick, or help other people do the same thing. That's a big reason why I'm doing it. In order to help other people, I need to know how to do it myself. And a big reason why I'm growing my channel is so that it can be a platform that I can bring other agents on around New Brunswick too. Like, let's say like other agents that we bring in from the Wolfpack here, bring them on podcasts and like put them on as well, so that they get, just like you're doing here, just like you're doing for me. It's like, I want to do a little version of that here, right?
I love it, man. I think that's so cool. And there's so much to unpack there, especially, you know, the types of videos that you're putting out. And so what I'm seeing work incredibly well right now, and I'm glad that you touched on it, is the market reports. And so a lot of people start to hear me and maybe other people on YouTube talking about the importance of market updates, market reports for the local market. But the continued question I get is, where and how do you find the data? What are you saying in them? What are you doing in them? So, you know, when you look at approaching, you know, a market update or a market report for the next month, what's your process from saying, okay, I have to do one next month? What do you do up to the point of recording to make sure that you have your ducks in a row to present that information?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know our board does it. So it used to do the stats individually per the city. Our board just went through an amalgamation. But what I did before was I'd look up from the St. John Real Estate Board. I would look up and see what are the newest monthly stats. And every month there was a full report on the listing inventory, on the average home price, on all that information, and it was all on there. And there was normally the president of the St. John Real Estate Board had a little blurb about where they thought things were going, and I kind of analyzed that. But I'd also look at news reports too. It's like, what's the local news saying about the real estate as well? And then I'd look up like videos. Is there any videos? And then I'd look up the average home prices. Here's a big thing that I'd always try to do too, is I'd try to compare our local market, and I'd try to zoom out as well and say, here's what's going on in Canada, and here's what's going on in our market, how we compare to what's going on the macro scale. Because a lot of people get hyper focused on the home prices in their town, and they go, the home prices are rising, they're so expensive, and it's too expensive to live here, and I don't know how anybody can afford it. And it's like, I understand that perspective, but if you zoom out of New Brunswick, we have some of the lowest average home prices per province in the country. So it's like, I want to remind people of that too, because there's a lot of people that are looking at these market reports from outside of the province, and there's a lot of people looking at it from inside of the province. So, and you get a lot of shade from people too, right? They're like, oh, you're helping the people move from BC and Ontario. And it's like, that's going to happen regardless. I'm just putting a net out to be able to help some of them, because they're going to move here regardless if they see me or not. But I'm just being a service, and I'm a real estate agent, so it's part of the business. And like, people always throw shade and stuff too, right? And that's a big thing that stops people from making content, is the shade that gets thrown out there. And you have to kind of galvanize your skin a little bit. So that's why it's important to be authentic, because if you're, I mean, like when I first started, I was like that cartoonish version. And then when people threw shade, I was like, oh, I'm trying to be what I feel like people want to see. And then when I'm getting shade and people saying negative stuff, that hurt me so bad, because it's like, I'm not even being myself, and I'm trying to be what people want, and they don't want that. And then now it's like, at least if I know I'm just being me, and then someone says something, I'm just like, well, I wouldn't have got along with that person in real life anyway. So what's it matter? Like, it's like, I heard somebody say, you only need 51% of the vote to be president.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I love that quote. It's so true, dude. And like, honestly, it got to the point, and of course there's going to be one here and there that kind of like get under your skin, but the majority of time when you have a negative comment, like, I have fun with it. Like, I'll reply to a negative comment with such a trolling statement that just makes them look like a complete idiot. Yep. And then everybody else chimes in and has fun with it. And to me, I just look at it as, any engagement is better than no engagement. So we might as well have fun with it and start to realize, hey, they just showed YouTube that people are engaging, so let's show it to some more people, you know?
Yeah, and it fuels the algorithm too, right? So when people get upset about like, oh my God, there's a negative comment, and like some people freak right out and they'll try to like hide it or delete it. And it's like you said, just like lean into it. Like, it's like, I'll like double down on who I am. And it's like, I'm going to talk to this person as if, because most people leave comments, but it's like, they're commenting as like, that's not how they'd communicate with you if you were actually in front of, like, if they were in front of you. They probably wouldn't have said that, or maybe they would, but I'm going to say what I would say back to that in real life. I'm going to say the same thing, right? It's like, I'm going to respond the same way that I would in real life. And normally, like, if somebody's being like super negative, like, I get like sarcastic and fun and like just like troll response. So, and all of that. So the first time that happens, you're like shocked and you're like, oh no, what are people going to think? And it all feels high stake. It all feels high stake when you first start YouTube. It feels like, if I do this video wrong, I'm going to have no career. Nobody's ever going to call me. But really what it is, and what I've learned, is you always get another at bat, right? So the other crazy thing with YouTube is we could, and I know you know this is a thing that blew my mind, is I've sat there before and I've spent hours of like research, and I spent hours editing videos, and I'm like, this one is perfect. This one is going to be going to the moon. Everybody, this one's going to go viral. And I put it out and it's just like, it's a big flop. It's a big flop. And I've done some videos where I'm going like, oh, this was rushed. I'm really not proud of this, but I'm going to put it out because done's better than perfect, like you said. And I put it out and it's just like, people love it. And it's like, oh, we don't even get a say. We don't get a say in what a good video is. The market gets to decide. So we just got to put stuff out there to figure out what the market is responding to.
Agreed. And I think I love that you touched on the fact that you're so into the analytics, because that's the exact opposite of how most approach YouTube. Is they're constantly just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, and they're always going in blind, wondering why it's not working out, and they're kind of just posting to post and to stay like consistent. You always hear that quote of like consistency is key, but the major caveat to that is consistency is key as long as you're consistent with the right things. Because you can be consistent with the wrong things and be consistent for 10 years and not get results. But if you're consistent and you're constantly improving, which the only way to do that is by looking at the data, then you have an opportunity to thrive. So, you know, do you want to kind of touch on how you approach looking at those analytics and then maybe applying that to your content? Because I do the same thing for you. Like my morning routine, I wake up at 4 a.m., I go to the gym by 5. Between 4 to 5, I come downstairs, I'm drinking my pre-workout, and while I'm doing that, the first tab I open is YouTube, analytics, what are we doing? How are things going, right?
Yes,
And it's fun because when you can kind of gamify it, you find a lot of enjoyment in the process. Where for me, I don't look at any of my competitors' videos anymore. Like, so for me, what I do is I'm competing against my last video. So I'm like, oh, why did that video bomb and suck? Okay, well, what can we do better next time? And like, you start to get in this competitive mode with your own channel. And that's a really positive thing too, because not only are you improving, but you're keeping the sights on yourself. Everybody else, and I see this constantly, they get all jacked up with YouTube because every time they put a video out, they look at what everybody else is doing. And they're like, well, why is their video crushing it? And what you'll realize is the majority of times I see those scenarios happening, they're in a market with like 5 other people putting out YouTube, all of which have been putting out YouTube for like 3 more years than them. They've got hundreds of videos, way more ranking authority, bigger brands. Well, of course that's going to happen in the beginning, but they're looking at everybody else and they're counting other people's money instead of focusing on their own journey and getting better with their own content. So let's kind of dive into that because not many people talk about this. So I'm excited that we finally get to unpack this a bit.
Cool. Okay. So comparison is the thief of joy, right? So when you're comparing yourself to all these other people, like it almost makes you discouraged. So you can't do that. And like you said, gamify it. So, and that's exactly what I've done. So the thing that I love the most, the one that I'm like really doubling, I'm not even on views. Like I understand views are important, but what I love is the watch time. How long are people actually watching? And I'll go in I go right into the analytics on the click-through rate. What thumbnail is working good? And is it the thumbnail? Is it the title? Because both of those, you could make the best video in the entire world. You could have Steven Spielberg direct and edit the video. And if you have a bad thumbnail and a bad title, nobody is going to know about it. Nobody's going to click it because they're going to scroll right past it. So you could literally have the best product. And if you don't have the good thumbnail or the good title with it, then it's a complete waste. So you need to focus on the click-through rate. That's a big one. And trying to figure out what works. And that's a game right there. That's a game in itself because that's always changing. It's always changing what people want. 3-4 years ago, it used to be a little bit different and everybody's getting better now. And everybody's got access to like Fiverr and doing different things. And you got to find a way to be unique. And yours are all branded with the purple and finding a way to brand so that people know when it's one of your thumbnails or at least standing out enough in your market and against other videos. So like you always say, it's like before you launch a video, using vidIQ, there's a way to actually compare your current thumbnail and title to everything else that you'd search to find your own video. So doing that and then saying, would I click this? Is this the one that I would click when I'm searching for top 5 reasons to move to St. John? Does this have the best thumbnail? Is this the most enticing? Would I actually click this without knowing that it's mine? And that's a big thing. So the click-through rate, and then the watch time of each video. So it's like, you might have a ton of views because it's an interesting thumbnail and it's an interesting title. But then if the watch time is really low on the video, you're like, oh, well, the content didn't hit. Like the actual video didn't hit right. So I need to find a way to make it more enticing. Or maybe the hook wasn't there. Maybe I need to be more interesting in the first because that's where you have the most views is the first few seconds. And that's when you really need to hook people with their attention. So all of that, like knowing all of that, and then it's like, okay, now when I go to make my next video, I can be a little bit more cognitive on how I'm starting the video and what it's going to be like throughout the video. It just makes you way more aware. If you're going to spend time to do it, look at the analytics, like study the analytics. Cause for me, it's like, I want to make it as efficient as possible. So without just making 1,000 videos, like I want to make like each video count. And the only way to do that is to study what works. And it's almost like a little science experiment, but it's art at the same time because it's creating. So it's like the scientific art. It is so, so fun. So the watch time is my biggest one that I absolutely love. Views, and then figuring out, like, you can go right back into YouTube and figure out, like, of all the videos I have, which ones are still getting views. Some of the crazy things are, I have videos that are like 2 to 3 years old that are still getting views, like more than like videos I did 2 weeks ago. And it's like, okay, so that's interesting. That's interesting to people. I need to make more videos on these topics, or even just update these past videos that I did 2 years ago, because I'm a new person, I get new perspectives, and I'll be able to do a new, better video on that same topic that everybody seems to love.
I love that, man. It's, it goes back to that concept of what gets measured gets managed. And so many people are just operating their business blindly, wondering why they're not improving. And the way to improve is literally sitting right in front of you, right? YouTube tells you because they actually want you to succeed. And so many people are ignoring it, wondering why it's not working out. So, the other thing that I see a lot of people getting all jacked up with is consistency. And so we talked about being consistent with the right things. And I think you just unpacked for us what the right things to be consistent with are in terms of videos, looking at the analytics, improving. But then it comes to being consistent with actually recording. And so what does that look like for you? Because I see so many people, making every excuse under the sun. But then I see people within our group that have every excuse they could use and aren't, and are absolutely crushing it. Multiple kids, all kinds of different things going on, stay-at-home parent, working parent, part-time parent. Like, we have people in every scenario and they're all crushing it. But then I see so many people coming to us making the excuse game and playing the blame game, pointing fingers at every reason why they're not succeeding and not being consistent. So what's your kind of workflow process in terms of recording? Are you batching? Are you prepping? Or what are you doing to be on top of things to keep content rolling?
So I haven't got to the batching yet, which I absolutely want to, because I understand the value in it. But what I do is, you always tell us, show me your calendar. So if somebody says, I don't have time to record, show me your calendar. So I actually, this year, and this is something I want to talk about too. So I used to operate from a point of just kind of going by the seat of my pants. And you can almost see that in my past YouTube videos, where it was like, I'd post like maybe twice 1 month, and then it would be like nothing. And then maybe once again. And it was just inconsistent. And the reason is because I wasn't following a schedule. Now, I thought that was me being like authentic. I'm like, I'll just do a video when I want. But it's like, you need to be authentic and consistent. When you can add those two together, and that's just discipline. It's just being authentic and disciplined. So putting it into the calendar makes it a real thing. I block time for it. Nothing else happens when I need to record. So I record right now. I know how you do it. You'll do like a full day recording. I'll record once a week for about 2 hours kind of deal. I'm like, okay, this is my recording time. It's normally Fridays. So Fridays are my recording time, because it's kind of like the end of the week. You've normally got everything else sort of tied up. If there's closings, I try to do those on Thursdays, Friday. And I've got to the point now where, if you look at my calendar, between Monday and Friday, the mornings, I'm working on my business. I'm like doing the things like, okay, I'm doing CRM, I'm doing recordings, I'm doing answering emails. I have content scheduling. Like every day I have 1 hour blocked out for making a content post, because that's marketing, that's branding, that's building relationships on social platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram. And I'll tell you right now, it takes time to make a good, thoughtful post. It takes time to do that. And I like it coming from me right now, just because it's like, I want to go into depth of relationships. So to answer your question about how do I do the recording, I just have it in the calendar. And I started using that calendar just this year. So we are right now March, And I have been consistent with the calendar. And it's nice too, because sometimes in real estate, you wake up and you're like, the phone might not be ringing at, for a few days because you're in this in between with clients and stuff. And it's like, sometimes I remember over the last few years, I've been doing real estate now for 6 years. There was some weeks where I was like, am I unemployed? Like, what is going on? And I had no direction, and I wasn't actually working on anything to scale. And now it's like any free time I have, I'm putting that back in. Like, I'm in front of my computer. I'm making a post, or I'm booking something with like a photographer, so I can like set up some nice professional photos to go around St. John, or I'm setting up appointments to go meet people. It's like just doing more and putting it right in the calendar. So with the videos, the same thing has to happen, because you will find 1,000 reasons. Doing videos is uncomfortable. And you will, in your mind, make up 1,000 reasons why you cannot do it if you don't make time for it. You'll be like, oh no, I need to go feed the cat, or I know I have to go walk the dog, or my girlfriend needs supper. Like, it's like, yes, all those things, yes, that, and you need to make time for recording. So you have to put it in a calendar, and you have to make time for it, and then turn the lights on, go down there, have a little routine, get a coffee, have some fun with it. That's another thing. You have to have fun with it, or else you're going to stop doing it. If you hate the process, like, and it's not the most enjoyable all the time, but you got to find a way to make it fun, so that you're like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go record something, see what happens. And that's the way to do it. You have to block it in your calendar. And that's something I learned from also reading the 12-week year. Just finished in 75 Hard. I read a ton of books. So like, one of them was the 12-week year. And in that, which is something else I want to unpack so bad on this, is the 12-week year. So it's like, 1 year is a long time to get lost in between. You have goals for a year, and coming into March, people are like, what are my goals again? Oh yeah, I have 7-8 more months to achieve those. And you put stuff off, where on the 12-week year, you squeeze it all into a quarter, and it's like, I want to get all this, what you'd normally do in a year, do it in 12 weeks. And then that keeps you re-energized. Like, so we're right now just coming to the end of the first quarter. So it's like the end of the first year. So it's like, now I've been spending time writing down what's worked on my first quarter, what's worked on my schedule, and I'm plugging those back in. But the things that I may have freed up, like one of the things was working on my CRM. And I'm like, okay, my CRM's dialed in now. All I have to do is plug emails into it. It's all good to go. The drip campaigns are out. Everything's set. Now I can take that time I was spending 3 hours a week on CRM. I can do something different now, plug something new into it. And it's like, so all of these things come into play. And this is just from being around like-minded individuals who are looking to level up. And it's like, not many people talk about this kind of stuff here in New Brunswick. But when you get into a group of people globally who are all so high-level thinkers, and the culture that's created with the Wolfpack, we're all so similar in what we want to do. Everybody wants to achieve more. Everybody wants to be a better version of themselves. I think that's what's led us to you, because that's what you are. And that's the culture that's been created in the Wolfpack. And you get around these people and you learn this stuff. I don't think I would have learned this if I wasn't in the Wolfpack. So yeah.
I love that, dude. There's so much to touch on there. You're
There
a product
is.
of your environment. And I think, you said something really important there about, and it goes back to me in terms of you kind of saying, you put out content whenever, just because it would be authentic. And then you talked about the importance of like being consistent. And it goes back to a quote that Alex Hormozi always talks about, which is like, quality beats quantity, but quantity wins the game. And so when you can get to the point where you're, some people are like, oh, I'm just going to put out quality content, but once in a blue moon. And then others are like, well, I'm just going to be consistent, even though my content's trash. But the ones that win are the ones that put out great content consistently. And that comes through repetitions, because like you say, people will come up with every excuse under the sun, but no matter what, you will always make time for your priorities, right? Everybody has the same 24 hours. Every time you go through another minute, you're making a choice of what you're doing with the time. And so, I always use this example, like if you had a really busy day, but your kid had to go to the emergency room, would you say, hey, sorry, I have to take this client meeting right now? Or would you reschedule the client meeting to take your kid to the hospital? That's a priority. You made time for it because you've made it a priority. And I think a lot of people are treating this as a hobby, not a job. And so That's so, so important. But I love that you kind of led into what we always like to talk about at the end is, being a product of your environment. There's a lot happening this year, right? There's big changes, maybe not yet in Canada, but especially down in the States. And there's a lot of people, even across all of North America, that maybe didn't have the last 12 months that they're looking for and are looking to level up and go to that next phase of their business. But who you surround yourself with matters, because I always talk about winning being 50% mental, 50% environmental, and most people aren't learning either. And so, what kind of led you to EXP and why specifically our group? But not only that, what can people expect when partnering with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So what led me to EXP was finding your content online, right? So realizing the power of YouTube and the scalability. Me being in New Brunswick here, you were in Calgary at the time making content, and I stumbled upon it, and realized I'm like, oh, he's got something figured out, because you were just pretty well giving away all of the secrets that you knew. So what most people would call secrets, you were giving that away online for free. And then it's like, oh, and then you realize the massive momentum you were having from that. So just realizing, like, leading with value. Like, I've always been a big Gary V fan, and just like, it's like the jab, 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 value, 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 right hook. Like every once in a while, it's like the ask, but you didn't even ask. Like, you literally built the wolf pack off of just value, value, value. And people came to you, they're like, please tell me more. Let me in. Right. So that's what it was. I mean, I came from my past brokerage. And once I learned about EXP, because EXP just came here within the last 3 years, and then I jumped over from my past brokerage to here within about a year. Would have done it a lot sooner. There was some stuff going on. Anyway, then once I realized the opportunity with EXP, the stock benefits, the amazing commission split, which was better than my past brokerage, and every deal I closed at my past brokerage, I was like, oh, I could really use that extra commission split right now. Like, I could really use that. So every time it drove me a little bit crazier and crazier and crazier. And then also you just provided so much value up front. And I was like, I'm getting more value from Mike Sherrard, who isn't even at my brokerage. What am I doing? It's a no-brainer. So it's been an absolute game changer, because the Social Agent Academy is a huge tool that I think most people, even in the Wolfpack, don't all utilize. Like, everybody should be diving into that. And there is a lot on there. And like what I've told agents that have joined in my sponsor line is just pick one thing to start off, and then go deep on it. If it's Instagram, if it's YouTube, pick one of the mastery classes on the Social Agent Academy and go deep, because there is a lot on there, but just start with one thing. Like for me, it was YouTube, and I realized the power of it. So what can agents expect? I mean, I'm looking to grow my YouTube channel so that I can bring people on and help them grow theirs as well. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's to provide more value. Also, like you said, we're in a weird environment right now where there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a stuff happening with the NAR in the States, and it's like, that's got people all shaken up. And for me, I'm like, well, beautiful, because in Canada, this gives us a little bit of time to prepare, because like you said, it's probably coming to Canada. But like, now we have this big warning. We have a big warning sign. There's some stuff coming down the pipe. Now is the time to figure out your value proposition. Now is the time to find a way to add more value than what other agents are doing. And it's like, every agent can put your property on Realtor.ca. Every agent can put a sign in the ground, and every agent can call around and find the local photographer and get some good photos. That's like the standard of a real estate agent. By having a YouTube channel that is designed and has an audience that's interested in St. John, New Brunswick, the province and city that I serve, I have more value to give to anybody that comes to me because of this channel now. I have over 90,000 views. That's more people than are actually living in St. John. So it's like, that's just an extra value proposition that I can bring to people. And it's like, you need to find something like that. So helping agents find their value, be authentic on social media, grow their channel. I'd love to bring them on mine. do podcasts. And that's what I've said to anybody that's kind of come into my sponsor line too. There's a lot of them that are like, okay, let me get this ready first. Let me get that ready first. A lot of people get nervous with it, right? But I just want to have a real conversation with people. And it's like, you know, even if you don't have a lot to talk about with real estate, talk about your background, because people relate to people. So I think just having the channel where you can reach an audience is so invaluable. Gary Vee says this all the time. It's like attention is the #1 asset in the world. So it's like you need to find a way to garnish that attention. And social media is such a good tool for that. It's such a good tool, not just YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat, if you're on it, probably not, but like that's not a main focus of mine, but it's still there. Like you got to be good with it all because you never know what's going to pop. You never know.
I love that, dude. I think it's so incredible, the fact that, you know, we have this beautiful opportunity where people can partner with both of us and get both of our help, right? And so, you know, I've been able to help so many people, but you've actually executed on it and proven that it works. And now you can translate that to other people because you're still in the trenches of getting consistent deals from this stuff in today's market, right? This is not theory. This is based on practice. And I think, you know, if you're in a position and you're watching this and you're maybe not where you want to be with your business right now, who you align with matters, who you work with matters. And if you want to thrive while most are struggling to survive, you have to be in the right environment with people that want to see you win, but are also incentivized to help you win. So Brandon, man, thank you so much for coming on, brother. Again, I'm going to link all of your incredible content below, including an opportunity for people to chat with you about getting that one-on-one support. Any final messages, my man?
Yeah, so I want to have a couple. Yeah, so the closing thoughts, find a way to be authentic. Find a way to have fun with real estate. It's the only way to stay consistent. So when we talk about consistency, the easiest way to stay consistent is by being authentic. And that way it's just you being you, right? So it's you being you and sharing that with as many people as possible because you want to attract like-minded individuals. The reason that I find consistency matters and what people get afraid of is, well, some people might not like it. There's always going to be some people that don't like you. There's always going to be people that don't like your way. And that's why there's all kinds of real estate agents, because there's somebody for everybody. And people just need to they need to realize, be authentic and attract your crowd, attract your tribe, attract the people that want to work with you, attract the clients that you want. It's going to make your life more enjoyable. It's going to make your career more enjoyable. You're going to get more fulfilled by doing that. And the last thing is, don't spend much time focusing on what other people do. That's one thing I find in this business. So many people are watching other people going, oh no, they just got a deal. So-and-so just did this and this just happened. It's like, if people spent as much time as they do watching other people on their own business, they'd be doing so much better. Just put the blinders on, focus on what you have going on. Like you said before, it's you versus you. So when I'm looking at my content, it's the same thing. I'm just trying to do better than my last video. And that's a great mentality to have in life. You versus you. It's not you versus everybody else. How can you be a better version of yourself today? 1% better every day is a large amount on the long scale. It's actually crazy. So 1% better every single day.
I love that, man. That's the perfect way to wrap this up. And again, so much value here, and really glad that we could touch on some things that not many people do talk about in terms of the analytics and the true journey that we get to go on with something like YouTube. So guys, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Make sure you go check out Brandon's incredible content and stay tuned for his journey.